welcome to the Trails Collective interview series. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm really good. Uh,
So I want to first start off with a story about you. This is one of the best things that I like when I describe you to people. I tell people this story. I met you like a couple years ago. I don't remember the first. I think it was with Eric and Sheila when we went to that bar. That one, and
yes,
yeah,
yes,
it was
Windjammers.
after MFATML that one day.
Yes,
You won, and I ran 15 laps. It was great.
yeah.
So that's I think when we first officially met. But the best story that I have about you is last October I was running the Hartford Marathon to try to qualify for the Olympic trials, and
Yep.
you were running your first 100 miler at the
Yeah.
MidState Massive Ultra. And I
Yep.
remember you were like, hey, I'm in town. And it was like 2 days before the race. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, I was having so much anxiety and I didn't know what to do with myself. And you and I just went for a walk and just talked about it doesn't matter what happens. We're both love to run and we're both fit and trained and it's going to be fine no matter what happens. And that was just the best thing that could have happened to me because then 2 days later, I qualified for the Olympic trials and you finished your first 100 miler. And I just remember crossing the finish line. And after I finally realized what happened, I was like, gotta text Eric and Sheila because I gotta tell Scott, it's his turn, gotta hand him the baton. And yes, so we'll talk about that ultra, but that
Yeah.
is my Scott Parr story of dreams.
It was. It was definitely a great time. It definitely took some of the nervousness out of it, and it was. It was just two friends walking and having a good conversation, and just not caring, just going out and doing what we do and love to do. So
Yeah, and I remember you got your hair cornrowed at one of the black salons that we have down in the comments. It was
that's right.
great.
Yeah, I had my mohawk. Yep. Yeah, that was actually after Warhammer. That was like my signature thing. I loved having my hair done right before the race.
It's great. Some people some women I know do their nails. I don't, but.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So I met you a couple years ago, but I don't actually really know your journey with running. Or so let's start way in the beginning. Did you play sports or anything in high school and college?
Yep, I did play sports. I was a soccer player in high school. In like grade school, all the way up into 8th grade, I played baseball. So I always stayed athletic and fit, and I tried to stay competitive in some of my sports. But all throughout high school, and then getting into I want to say into my 20s and early 30s, I still played men's league soccer. So yeah, and like I said, I tried to stay competitive on it. So,
Did you play in
yep.
college?
No, I did not. I only went to college for a little bit, and what it was is I don't think school is really for me. And I got into the trades really young. Started having a family really young, so I got into the trades, and I really like doing that kind of work, and that's how I sort of fell into where I work today.
That's very similar to me. I did college for a little bit, but my money ran out. And then also, it just, I love learning and I love just reading and all that stuff, but I didn't fit with college. And
That's right.
so then I sort of just decided to stop for a little while and go out on my own and just, make money and do my own thing for a little bit. And I figured I would go back because, everybody goes to college. And then I just never did. And I'm 28. And so, I mean, I can still, we all can, but, I don't have this goal to go back to college and finish some degree. I mean, I'm content. So here we
Yeah,
are.
and that's how I felt. I got into it was actually a labor's union, and I fell in love with the work that I liked working with my hands. I liked building things, and my, my my company actually went to the job where I work today as a nuclear power plant, and I was working alongside some of the guys that worked there, and that's how I sort of fell into the work that I do now as a mechanic. So
So working at a nuclear power plant, what exactly do you do? I've seen you in the hazmat suits and you You
Yeah.
have your outage
Yes.
block where you just work crazy hours all the time. And so what exactly do you do?
So I am a mechanic at one of the local nuclear power plants here, but I wear many hats there. Sometimes I could be a supervisor to going down and fixing some of the equipment. Right now, I sort of fell into another position where it's called Fin Team, where I go ahead and I will plan the work order to going out and executing the job to completing the work order package at the end. So it's I'm a I'm a bunch of different jobs all balled into one, I guess. So, but it's fun. I really enjoy what I do. I travel the East Coast doing it, and I get to see a lot of different states and run in a lot of different states because of my work. So it's a lot of fun.
So how many years ago did you start running?
Uh, I believe 7 now. I think, yeah, I believe 7. I think 2013, the summer of 2013 is when I started doing small 5Ks.
And so if people don't know, like Scott is very active in Trails Rock and in the Rochester running community. Most people know who he is. And it's so when I think of you, you're extremely talented. And I think you're the person that like if like say an elite comes, you're the person that like if they're not like on their shit, you're gonna win. Like you're that guy. And that's so cool because it's like you're like this dark horse that like everybody knows you're good, but then you're like they don't always bet on you, and then you're just like right there, which is really awesome. Like 6th at Twisted Branch like 3 years in a row, like that's insane. And so that
Yeah.
tells me like in a couple years, like when races come back, like I think you've got that race. And also just like your attitude and the joy you feel like that just exudes from you, even when you're just sometimes slogging on the treadmill because you're in outage or whatever. It's really it's like a Courtney Dauwalter-esque, like you just make people want to run more, and I think that's a beautiful quality. So how do you keep that in your running? Like how do you just like it just seems like every day, and it might not be true, like but like you just how are you that like positive and that just always work hard, and where does that come from?
Well, first of all, I think it comes from having the patience of having 5 kids, and also so close together. I mean, my oldest now is oldest being 19, all the way down to 11, and going with the running aspect. I think going out and doing the best I can in the sport. I don't have any objective when I go out and start a race. I don't look at myself and say I'm going to be first in this race, or I just go out there and do the best I can. I mean, a lot of the races that I've ran, the courses are so different. So, I mean, I could go out there and I can train, do the Twisted Branch course, or I could go out and run the Zero SPF course here, or other courses that, go to Webster Park, right? But it's all different come race day. I mean, you get the nervousness, you look around you, you sort of weigh out your competition. You see your elite runners there. And I mean, that still scares me seeing, some of the elite runners that I run next to. And when I see people show up like that, it's like, oh, hopefully it still gets in my head. But what it comes down to is I'm running against myself, and knowing what I've done in the past and giving it my all on race day. And when I cross that finish line, that's the proudest and happiest part of my race. It's not racing this person or this person. It's basically racing and how I do during heat conditions, during rainy conditions, during any sort of conditions that the trails can throw at you.
When is an example of maybe you just really didn't feel like running?
Ooh, I can tell you my last race. So my last race was 120 miles down in Florida. Um, I knew something was wrong at mile 40. I was actually running second place for a good portion of the time. I was checking my watch here and there because I was running with the third place guy. And I was wondering how long I could keep this pace for 120 miles. And then I knew something was wrong around mile, I want to say it was probably around 30-ish to 40-ish. My gut started feeling, I knew my nutrition was off. And so I let the third place guy go. And about mile 50 is when I started throwing up. I knew, I was like, this has never happened to me. I got really nervous. I came to one of the aid stations. It was nighttime at this point because it started in the afternoon. The race started, it was like an afternoon race. And I got in the car. I actually slept for an hour. I woke up, and the guy that was helping me out, he was crewing and pacing me. I was like, how long did I sleep? He goes, an hour. I'm like, you were, what? And after that, I literally threw up at every aid station, but I continued. I kept going. I called one of my friends, and she pushed me out of the car. I literally, I'm telling you, I literally started crying and said, I think I'm dying. I think my body is dying. And she assisted that I wasn't dying. She just told me I can make it through it, to get out of the car, and it was pouring rain. And I got out of the car and looked down the road, and down the road, the guy, he goes, do you know where you're going? I said, no. And I could still picture the pouring rain, the way I was feeling. And he goes, see that blinking light about a half a mile down? He goes, turn right there. You'll hit the trail. And I remember walking and thinking, what am I doing? I had 120 miles to run. I was only at mile 50. And when I made that blinking light, I knew there was no turning back. And I dealt with that sickness for mile 50 to 100 and probably 11 was the last time I threw up. So
is there an example of a time when you let those negative thought patterns get to you and you quit?
Never. I have never quit a race.
How about just a regular run?
If I'm going out to run, I'm going out to run. I mean, yeah, I have gone out and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do 50 miles today, or I'm going to do 20 miles today. And I've cut them short. I have, but that's all part of who you are as a person. You know, are you going to go out and stick to a training plan? I've never had a training plan. So if I get to that certain mile and my body's like, hey, this is good for the day, that's how I go about my running. It's like, okay, I've never come to a strict schedule. I mean, if I go out and I feel like I'm going to run 30 miles, I'll run 30 miles. But there's sometimes I'm like, 20 is good today. You know, it's all on how I'm feeling and what I have going on for the day. And if I really want to push myself. So
I know that for me, sometimes it can be like mental.
mm-hmm.
So I might be okay, but if my mental game just isn't there. Is there any time when maybe you wanted to go out for 20 and at mile 15, you still could have done 5 more miles, but like you just like mentally gave up? Does that ever happen to you?
I mean, no, not really. I really mentally, if I'm going out for a run and I know it's going to be a long run, I'm going to go out and do that long run. I mean, I really, my mental game is, I'll say it's pretty spot on. I mean, I like to go out for my runs, and I like to enjoy my runs as well, especially if they're training runs. There's some that, like some of the hills, like I don't really push myself up the hills because during races, I know what I have to do. I know that, hey, this is time where I got to walk, or my body's feeling this. We got to push myself. Hey, I know I'm in this place. Maybe I can make it to this place. So I got to push myself in this part of the section of the course. So yeah, I mean, I want to say yes and no, because I like I said, there's been times where I've wanted to go out for 10 miles, and at 5 miles, I've been like, that's good enough. But like stated before, I've never really had a training plan where I've set something in stone that I need to do this.
You also don't seem to me like somebody who would like dwell on it.
Not at all.
Nope. I guess I train a lot for the roads and for things where I'm actually keeping, like on workout days, I'm keeping track of a pace or an effort. And I know when I haven't given it my best effort, or if I just am like, I'm not feeling it today, even though like I know I could give a better effort or something. And that does eat at me. But I guess I think that's what attracts a lot of people to trail and ultra running is like it's really about more going a distance rather than like I want to run this portion of the run at this pace, and like because there's a lot of mental fortitude that people don't like think about when it's like I have to keep going at this pace, or like that's what I would like to keep going at this pace, you know what I mean? Do when you're designing your own training plan or just going out for a run, do you ever do like workouts or things like that?
I do. I do. I try to stick to, so when I go out for my runs, I always have a plan in place when I go out. Like there's some times where it's like, okay, I just want to enjoy this run. So I know at a certain pace that my body feels really good. It doesn't tingle. It feels just natural. And you're smiling because you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then there's other times where I go out for a run and I really push myself up the hills and I can feel my fingers tingling or my body start to tingle because I'm really pushing myself. So there's always a plan that I have. And sometimes when I get done, I'll look at my watch and I'm like, okay, that was a pretty good pace. But I know where I'm capable. I know what I'm capable of doing and what paces I'm capable of holding for a long period of time. But that comes for race day. I like having fun. I like looking around. I like feeling comfortable when I'm preparing for a race. And then come race day, that's where it all plays out. And as you can see, if you look at some of the stats of some of my races, it's played out very well. So, and that's why I say I've never really had this set in stone plan. I've had people approach me and say, hey, would you like a coach? And I've always thought about it, but with my busy schedule with work and my children and stuff like that, would I be able to maintain that schedule and not be selfish? And I don't want to give too much away for my family, I guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I really do appreciate the way you've described your family to me. Because you are like, it's not a secret, you are divorced. But the like relationship you've told me you have with like your ex-wife, her new husband, and like the
Mm-hmm.
way you guys raise your children,
Yep.
that like I already thought you were like a top-notch guy. That like elevated it even more. I was like, who is this person, and how
Yeah,
like
thank
so
you.
lucky to have this friend.
Yeah. We try to maintain a pretty stable relationship, and it's really it seems like it's working well for the kids as well. I came from a split family, right? My mom and dad divorced. I was really young, and the part when seeing just that constant fighting and stuff, and we came to a conclusion where, hey, this is not healthy for the kids. They should have both mother and father, and whoever else joins in the family. We need to keep respect and constant communication, right? So it's a healthy environment for the children. Yep.
Do you think that I'm going to start asking this to more of my interviewers that do a lot of longer ultras,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that a lot of people um, appreciate ultra and trail running because pace doesn't matter, like, but also, you know, it's prestigious to go, it feels prestigious to go really long rather than really fast. And I always wonder, like, if you had to stop at like 13 miles or like 20 miles, because people like to challenge themselves by going longer rather than going faster in our culture. I'm always wondering, like, so would running still do it for you if you had to stop at 13? Like,
Yeah. So that's something that I'm struggling with this year is I mean, in January, I was gearing up to do Tahoe 200, right, in
yeah,
September. So I had all my races planned out basically for the year. And I mean, I know where I was as of last year. I know where I stood, and I have looked at some of my like ultra signups and where I am with Strava and what I was on track for. So I mean, I did have a plan where I wanted to be at certain periods of the year, right? And so that all got washed out. And I'm looking back and I'm getting reminded, thank you, Facebook. I'm getting reminded a lot from like Facebook memories of what I did last year. And so I'm struggling with, hey, I'm only doing like 5 miles a day during lunch breaks, or I'm only getting this in. But I guess this is where it comes with that attitude. I'm still getting something in. I'm not, I haven't completely stopped. So it's still, I'm looking at it as you're doing something. You're just not, I don't want to call it wasting the year, but you're getting mileage in still, you're maintaining. So, and that's what I'm excited for. I'm still able to do the things that I love to do.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm right there with you. Like I'm in actually a break right now. I'm taking a week off, but my long run is like 80 minutes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's, I mean, that's not like 10, 11 miles if I'm,
Yeah.
so, and that's okay right now because like, I'm enjoying the process of what I'm doing. And I think that's the most important. And so, it's not like if Candace was like, pandemic over, Scott, we'll come to Tahoe, you could probably like go and still finish,
I would definitely give it my best. I would definitely
Yeah.
give it my best. Yeah.
So that fitness is always going to be there,
Mm-hmm.
and also I feel lucky that we're not injured,
That's right.
like it's not, and like things that you were doing last year was a completely different set of circumstances. So it's not like the reason you're not racing or winning or anything is because you couldn't go to a race because you were injured or you weren't able to whatever. It's because we're in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah, I agree with that. And going forward, I mean, when everything opens up, I mean, everybody will, I won't say start over, but everybody will get back on the running scene and get back together and start doing their trail runs and start doing their group runs. And I can't wait because I do miss all the people in the trail community. I do.
Yeah, I actually like doing new things now because I can epically fail and it doesn't really matter. Or like I can take a week off when I'm tired, like right now, and I don't have to like, oh, I have a race in a couple weeks. Oh, it's not a good idea. Whereas like I'm really tired, so I need to take a week off. Like,
Yeah,
you know?
that's it. Is I actually thought about that. Is I don't have any races that are holding me to to go out and do these long runs, or there's nothing holding me accountable. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I do. I have devoted to my family this year with our trips and stuff like that. So, and I told them, I said, I appreciate, because the last 3 years I've been going pretty strong.
Yeah.
I've been running hard and putting a lot of mileage in and doing some pretty amazing races. And I told my family this year I was going to devote it to them. So, and that's what we're doing. So, in a couple of weeks here, we have a huge family vacation. We're going away for 10 days. So, I can't
Oh,
wait
that'll
for that.
be wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah, I have one planned for over Christmas, so we'll see.
Nice.
Hopefully America's got its head out of its butt by then.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm like, wear a mask, everybody. I want to go on vacation.
Yeah. Right.
So let's talk about a couple of the races that you did last year. So
Okay.
after like MFATML, like a couple years ago,
Sure.
that you ran like what, 50 miles that day?
Uh, yeah, it was like a little under 50. I believe it was 40 something, 42.
And I remember you saying that was the day you signed it up for Twisted Branch because
Yeah.
you believed you could do it.
Yes,
And
yes.
then you did Twisted Branch, and then, you just seemed to really blossom and come into this like amazing runner and also somebody that gives back a lot. Like you got really involved in Trails Rock and it was really cool. And then all of a sudden, Scott's going to Black Canyon, Scott's going to Bandera. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, and the thing is, like, about you, like, you're someone that could come home with a golden ticket if one of the elites is like screwing around. And that's just like how I see you. So it was really fun to watch. And no, it didn't go your way exactly, but you know, there's more, you put
Mhm.
yourself out there. So tell me about why you just decided to like go to those races and all of a sudden just like jump into like some of the biggest races in America.
Okay. So the big thing, so when I did my first Twisted Branch, I mean, that was pretty epic for me. Knowing that I could run 65 miles through some pretty crazy terrain, especially in New York. That's, home state, and being my first 100K and coming out sixth, I was like, and some of the people that were at that finish line that day, they were like, you just finished top 10. Are you kidding? And I didn't really understand it because I know I did the FATML, and coming out, I mean, it didn't really sink in until a couple like weeks later. I was like, holy, I can really do this. And so the following year was the Empire Triad series between Many on the Genny, Cayuga, Trails 50, and then Twisted Branch. So I actually signed up for all three of those to see if I can really push myself and see how I fathomed running all three races. And I came out pretty much on top. I took first place in that event. So that really opened up my eyes of what I was capable of. And so I wanted to really venture away from the security of having my hometown crowd behind me and going through aid stations with my friends being there. And I've talked to other runners, and they told me, go check out some other races throughout the United States. And so I got a couple tips on Bandera, was in January, and I knew I was capable of running a 40, 50, and 60 miler back to back to back. So I wanted to see how I would do running 200Ks back to back. And I knew it was a Western States qualifier. So if I really like fizzled out at Bandera in January, I had another attempt to redeem myself at Black Canyons in February. So two both amazing races. And I actually qualified for Western States at both of them. So, I mean, January at Bandera, I qualified for Western States, but I still ran Black Canyons, and I would have qualified there as well. So after doing that, I came back home, and I was pretty much scheduled to run my first 100-miler with Warhammer. So I really wanted to pick a 100-mile race that no one really knew about. And I know there's all these really amazing 100-mile races. And so I looked into it, and Warhammer, it was the second year. And so I ended up signing up for Warhammer, and history speaks for itself. I ran really great that day. I took some amazing friends with me that really pushed me in the back end of that race. And my first 100-mile race, I actually came out on top. I won the whole thing. So I knew I was capable if I put my heart and soul into my races. I was capable of coming out on top. And like you mentioned before, I mean, maybe there was some elite runners that day that have done multiple hundreds, but unfortunately, that day was my day.
Yeah. What year was that?
That was 2000. That was last year. 2000. It was June of 2019. Was
That was
Warhammer.
Warhammer. Because I remember you did Twisted Branch, and then you're like, I'm taking such a long break. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, you signed up for like the MidState Massive Ultra.
That's right.
And
So
I was like, is this thing on? Like, I thought I remember you like crumpled at my feet at Twisted Branch. Like, I'm not doing anything.
yeah. So yeah. So I came home from Warhammer. Pretty excited. I couldn't believe it. Really, I really couldn't believe. There was an article that was written in the DNC that was pretty amazing. I didn't really know that I came in first or 4 hours ahead of the second place finisher, And he's really a good friend of mine. We talk all the time through Facebook, and we were supposed to do Tahoe 200 together, but unfortunately the circumstances changed with this year. But I did. I came home. I went through Twisted Branch, and I was like, that's it. That's all. I want to take a break. And I remember talking to you saying, I'm taking a break. And then like any ultra runner or runner in general, when you start scrolling ultra signups, that could get really dangerous. And then so I found this MidState Massive Ultra, and I went the year before that. I went and helped a couple people do the Cut 112, if you know what that is.
I do. I'm very familiar with the founder or the race directors, Art and Fred and Jimmy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I met them, and I paced a bunch of friends doing, or a couple friends doing the Cut 112. And I said, while I was doing that, I was like, how awesome is this to run through the whole state?
Wait, was that with Laura?
That was, yes.
Okay, yeah, because she like didn't finish because she missed the cutoff, but you guys still did it. Okay.
Yes, yep. So that was right. And so I thought to myself when we were doing, I was like, how awesome is this to run through the whole state? I want to say it wasn't 2018, it was 2019. It was before Warhammer, because I was afraid that I was doing too much, and it was actually wasn't. But I just thought to myself, it's pretty amazing that you're running through the whole state, right, of Connecticut. So,
and those are like the gnarliest trails.
It was. And
bushwhacking, and yeah.
It is. And to see them go through what they went through and still able to finish the race, it was pretty amazing. So while I was perusing through ultra signups, I see this MidState Massive Ultra. And I see that it runs through 4 different states, which was the southern tip of New Hampshire. It went through Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. That was the 4 states. And I'm like,
states that like no one even knows are states. Like, where you?
Yeah. So I was like, how awesome would that be to run through all these states, or at least touch all the states? Because you literally ran in each state. So I thought about it for about 2 seconds, and I signed up. Yeah.
See, I scroll ultra sign up all the time just because I'm like looking up my interview subjects and stuff, and I never want to sign up for anything.
Yeah, I look, and what I was looking at is I wanted to keep something close to home, and that just seems so. I looked at where it was in the aspect of where the trails led, and it's the MidState Massive Trail. So the trail's actually a lot longer than that, but they just did a section of it, and it was a beautiful trail system.
So, have you ever dealt with injury?
I have. So it was, I want to say 3 years ago. I dealt with, that's when I was playing indoor soccer, maybe 4 years ago. I was in a men's co-ed league, and I actually tore my meniscus, and I sprained my ACL, and I believe my MCL as well. And I had to have knee surgery. And I thought my running career was over. I wasn't really doing the longer distance at that point. I'm trying to think. I think I did. I think I did Twisted Branch, my first Twisted Branch. I went out for knee surgery. Actually, I tore my meniscus, excuse me. I tore my meniscus, and I dealt with it for a full year of the injury. And I knew something was really wrong when the pain started getting overwhelming, where I would be screwed up for a couple days because of my knee. After I wasn't really sure what the problem was, but I was also scared to go figure out what it was, because I didn't want the doctor to say, hey, you're never able to run again. So, I think I dealt with it because it wasn't that painful, but I wanted to figure out what it was and get it fixed so I can get back to running. And so I had my knee surgery. And I want to say that was like 2016, 17, maybe. And they gave me like an 8-week time frame before I could start running again. But they said no more long runs. That's what my doctor told me. He said, don't do any more long runs. But he said, you're pretty healthy, you're pretty active. And he said, you're going to live your life like you're going to live. So I just have to tell you as your doctor is just make sure you're not doing those long runs. And I believe a year after my knee surgery, I came back and ran twisted branching, came in 6th again for my 2nd time. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot to be said for, being an athlete, taking care of yourself. We're not exactly the norm.
Yeah.
So, it might, like someone who would never run or wasn't an athlete, it might not be good for them. It's like, when you, well, you wouldn't know, but like when women get pregnant, it's like you shouldn't start an exercise routine then, but if you've been exercising, it's fine to keep going.
That's right. Yeah. I understand.
So,
Yeah.
did you immediately start on the trails when you started running?
I didn't. I actually, the guy who paced and crewed for me down in Florida, he was the guy that actually got me into running. I started, actually, I was a big time smoker, before I ran. And he asked me to join him in a 5K. And so I had to train. Literally, it sounds crazy, but I literally had to train to run a 5K when I first started running. And, I want to say it was I'm from Rochester, so it was the Rochester 5K, half marathon, and marathon, and I did the 5K with them.
I know 2 people that they quit smoking by running. Like whenever they wanted a cigarette, they would just go take a lap.
Yeah, yeah.
Great thing, I guess.
It is, and I mean, I throughout I want to say throughout the first 2 years of my running career, I mean, I struggled with cigarette smoking on and off, and so I'm glad to say that I've cheated here and there, but I could say that I am smoke free now, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's easier to run.
Yeah, definitely.
And probably saves you a bunch of money.
Yeah, it sure has.
So, what made you try your first trail race, and what was it?
Oh, this is a good one. So I went with Trails Rock. I started joining. So I got into my 5Ks. I got into longer, like road 10Ks. And I just went on the internet and I found, hey, we're doing these group runs, Trails Rock, and I seen some shirts at some of the races, and I'm like, what is this Trails Rock? It's a pretty cool blaze orange shirt, and I went on the internet and I found they did group runs, and I believe the first group run I went to was a Tuesday, and I seen this guy with this big voice getting, hey, we're ready for the run, and that now everybody knows is Eric. And I met his wife Sheila, and I went to the group run. And then after that, they posted on Facebook. I became friends with them on Facebook, and they posted that they were doing a run 'em all, hike 'em all at Letchworth State Park, where they ran / hiked every single trail at Letchworth, which was over like 102 miles or a little over 100 miles worth of trail system. And so I messaged them back and I was like, I would be interested in doing that with you. And now we are very good friends, and they've told me about it. They're like, we didn't even know who you were. And so I went with them. I did the whole thing with them. And I want to say that's where I fell in love with like running the trails. It was just amazing what the community had to offer, the people that I met during that experience, and just hearing their stories and it's a story that I can share now. Hearing their stories of their 50-mile runs, their 40-mile runs, their marathons, and it's like it just amazed me and sort of inspired me to be where I am right now.
Yeah, Eric and Sheila are a special couple. We
They are.
we love them here at the
Mm-hmm.
Trails Collective. And I remember actually I talked to Eric last night, and he was telling me about, because that run 'em all, hike 'em all actually ended up being where they were also scouting for many on the Genny, which you and I both love.
Yep.
I remember the year 2 years ago, that was the best year that I've had there. And I remember I missed like a turn, and I just turning around, and you're like, I think you missed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh goodness, that was
Yeah. And it was this year that they had to unfortunately cancel the race. But I was actually able to pace them on their own race. And we did that this summer, which was really special because they got to do the race that they created that I was sort of there helping them out with. So, and I, at that time, they kept on telling me, yeah, we're doing this for a bigger, but they didn't tell me. They said, we're doing this. There's something bigger that's going to happen. And they wouldn't even tell me. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's a bigger picture. And when I found out what it was, I was like, how awesome is this? So pretty amazing.
It made me so happy because I kept telling Eric that like I'm only gonna run many on the Genny again when he runs it with me, and he's like, I can't. I'm the RD. I'm like, Sheila's got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they did this, and I was just it blew my mind, to be honest. Like just you and I both watched Eric struggle, and not only is he like stayed with us and he crewed you for I think mid-massive state, because
yep
that's
he
who
did.
I texted like immediately after I crossed the finish line.
Yeah.
And we were just so special to have them.
They are. I'm glad to have them in my life. I really am.
So you talked about doing Tahoe 200. Are there any other, and obviously, like considering you went to 2 golden ticket races, you'd like to do Western States, I take. Are there any other races like abroad? Because you do like to travel. So, I mean, are there any races abroad that you've looked at, like even longer, like the Spine or Tour de Giants, or, you know?
I have looked into I have, but I really haven't committed. Especially after this year, because I'm not sure where everything's going to end up, right?
Yeah, these can just be dream races. Like, I mean, there are races like you don't strike me as like a UTMB kind of guy. You're kind of like, that seems just too flashy. But something like Tour de Giants or, you know, those crazy races in England, you know, those things that seem a little bit more backwoodsy, that kind of seems more your speed.
Yeah, so there are a couple races that I've looked into, and the one that really that I actually talked to Sheila about it because I want to say she's looked into it too. There's a race that's called Coast to Coast. It's down in Costa Rica, I believe, and it runs from one side of Costa Rica to another. It's a staged race, so I've looked into that. But abroad, I haven't really looked into anything. I think there's too many awesome races around here or in the United States that I'd really like to stay in the United States, I think, and really like maybe go to Colorado and run some mountain races or venture down to Texas again or over into Arizona again. But it'd be really nice, maybe even going to Vermont to the White Mountains, right?
Or like Utah.
That's right, or Utah.
But you know, you would love a Gary Robbins race.
I have looked into some, and
Squamish 50-50.
Yeah. See, I'll say there are friends from up north, but yeah, I haven't looked outside really the United States. I only briefly, like I said, looked outside, but nothing. There's, like I said, there's so many good races that I would love to try, and there's new races just about every year that come out that it's like, oh my gosh, that looks beautiful to run in. And that's how I chose Warhammer. I went in and I seen where it was, the Red River Gorge. When we got there, all I could say, it was like Ithaca on steroids. It was some of the most beautiful scenery that I've seen. Some of the most, the countryside and the forests that we were running through and the gorges that we were running next to. It was a beautiful, beautiful area. And I did not know it was one of the #1 rock climbing destinations in the United States. So
yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I don't scroll ultra sign up. I don't have wanderlust. I mean, I joke about a vacation just because like I kind of want to take a vacation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly like I want a vacation and not from the pandemic. That's kind of what I want. I actually talked to Ian and I put the bug in his ear, so maybe we'll see. Because now that Cayuga isn't the championship, and he wants a 50K, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, what if we do like the Cayuga 50-50, like the 50 miler and then the 50K? And I think that'd be pretty cool. So I put the bug in his ear, but he's got a lot of stuff to deal with.
Nice.
So this might be in a couple years. But yeah, there are just so many pretty places in America.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's even in New York, there's beautiful places, Pennsylvania, you know, so I guess I like you, I don't really have like wanderlust to go anyplace else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, so this year, if this year happened the way I planned, this year was going to be my sort of, I don't want to say my last year of travel, but this was going to be, because I did travel a lot. This was going to be my last year of traveling out of New York State, because I really wanted to come home in 2021, and I wanted it just to be I wanted to give back to the race directors in the roster community and the surrounding areas, and make sure that I was putting my time in here and showing my face to the community here, and running against some of the people that come up to me and say, "Hey, great race," or "I seen you down in Texas or Arizona or Kentucky," or, you know, running through Pennsylvania, or just looking at. I just wanted to be around my friends and be able to laugh with them as I was running trails, or I wanted to be 2021 to be my homegrown races.
So we are in the midst of a pandemic, and so the last thing I kind of want to ask you is about races. There are a couple races that have gone on, and I have my opinions on them, mostly from the footage that I've seen. And also, I'm an essential worker. So I have been at the front lines for the past 5 months. And so I
Mm-hmm.
know what all the work we've done. And I also know about the caseloads that are going up. So you haven't done much any racing. And
Mm-mm.
I wonder if your motivations are just, you know, you don't really feel like it, or do you have an opinion on like the safety precautions or things like that?
So what happened? So this year, what I've seen, so a lot of the races got deferred to next year, right? So you got an option. You can either run. So a couple of the races did run. You can either run the race, or you got the option to defer it to 2021. And and with a lot of my races in the beginning of the year, when this whole pandemic started, um, I wasn't I wasn't sure how everything, you know, I heard different opinions from people, and how are they going to do aid stations, and how are they going to do this, and is is everybody going to have sealed containers? There was so much uncertainty with races, where I do like to go into races and know that there's going to be this here at this aid station, this here at this aid station. What I struggled with a lot in Florida is some of the aid stations that they called aid stations weren't aid stations. It was just someone checking you off, or there wasn't a lot of aid actually there.
Well,
Um,
you ran a Sean Blanton race, which he's not very popular around these parts.
uh,
Oh,
exactly. That's why I didn't mention. I mean, yes.
scumbag.
Yeah, yeah. And so, um, anyway, they weren't. There was a lot of uncertainty with the races, and especially with Tahoe 200. And that also got deferred. I got 2-year deferment. I could either do 2021 or 2022, and that's what I
That,
opted on.
but then what would you do if you got to a start line and
Mhm.
you were assured that masks would be worn, that people would be social distancing, and that wasn't happening?
Okay,
That's what
I see where
scares
we're
me.
going with the
I know I
question.
would
So
start to freak out.
yeah, so I am an essential worker, and I work around people, very close proximity with people. People coming in. I got people coming in from different states as specialists working on equipment, and I mean, masks are mandatory at my job and walking around, but then I've been to other places like other states. So, I mean, this is almost talking like a politics question or a religion.
Well, I mean, it's important. Like, I mean,
It is.
I don't
So,
like, I don't feel comfortable racing because everything I've seen has not been our social distant race. It's not been that. And so, like,
right.
I know that if I got to that race start line, I'd start freaking out and I'd probably start like being very mean to everybody.
Right. And that is so you got two different sides, and I think I might be on the other aspect in where I've been around tons of people. I have a friend that's a nurse that's been to New York City. So I'm my trip is supposed to be to. That's where I thought you were going.
All right, let's go.
Oh, sorry. How's that? Better? So what I think as a nuclear worker and being around the people that I've been at, or been around is, yeah, we are essential workers. And I told you before, I have a friend she's a nurse and she's been to New York City and been in the midst of the pandemic. And I don't want to stop my life and put it on pause. But I do want to respect the whole wearing the mask. I've been around people that have come into my job as specialists from different states. And because they're essential and trying to keep my power plant going, I have to work in close proximity within 6 feet of them, right? So I can't stop my life and stop my job. But I do respect people's comfort zones. If they, if their mask is not covering their nose, I'm not gonna like yell at them or tell them, hey, your mask isn't covering your nose. But I don't. I've booked trips where I can't get refunds on them. Like my Ocean City, Maryland trip, I was just there, and 2 days before we were supposed to go, they announced that we weren't, as New York State residents, allowed to go to Maryland. And again, I'm supposed to be going to Myrtle Beach. And when I called my booking company, this is literally what they told me. We are all open here. We can't give you a refund. And that's my whole family is supposed to be going down there. So I understand there is concern. I'm not saying, I mean, you hear people say, hey, this is all fake. It's just the flu. It isn't the flu. It isn't. There are people on respirators and there are people, and I don't want to get people sick, but I am taking the precautions. If I do go to places, I do come back and I get tested, and
you wear a mask.
And exactly, and I wear a mask. You're exactly right. I make sure that I am giving the people the respect where I am wearing a mask in public or going through stores, and I am maintaining that 6 foot space. But going to races and all, it's you got to respect people's comfort, right? And you got to understand and respect their level of how they feel. So there are going to be some people that, I mean, want you to wear a mask and do certain things at races, and there's other people that are going to run freely, right? So, yeah. I mean, it's all in people's comfort.
With like a governmental, like something coming from the government, not like, oh, we'll let you guys decide. It's like, no, just tell everybody to wear a mask, and that's like right. There aren't any events, like just do it. Like, but yeah.
I mean, you hear. Yeah, you hear of other states like wanting to close back down. I mean, the way I look at it, I mean, we are closed off. New York State is closed off to a lot of the United States right now. And it's sort of frightening a lot of people. Like, but then if you look at in the United States as a whole, there's other states that are closing down completely again. And there's
because the cases are going up. I mean,
Right.
it's completely justified. Like, I mean, we tried to reopen and we like really it was we can reopen, but you need to wear your mask. And if you're not wearing your mask, stay 6 feet apart.
Yeah,
People just couldn't do it.
that's right.
The problem. So, I mean, to be honest, like we should shut down until the pandemic is over.
Right, right. And that's the thing is people got to respect what they're being told, and that's not happening. So people are still getting together. People are still, you know, doing stuff that they're not supposed to do, and we'll. It's only going to get better as if we listen and we respect the stores. And if you want to go out, you got to wear a mask. You can't not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Scott, it's been wonderful to take over an hour of your time tonight. Thank you for helping me with the glitches, but don't worry, I'll edit. It'll be great. Can you tell people where they can find you online? You also write about all these experiences on a blog, and you also are very active on social media. So please tell us where we can find you.
Yes. So I'm on WordPress. That's where I write some of my blogs. I haven't posted really this year. I did write for my 120 miler. But I am on WordPress, and I'm also on Instagram. You can find me at Parr Senior, and then I'm also on Facebook. So both of them are public forums, so you can come friend request me, and I'll be happy to be your friend and give you tips on running if you want.
And his WordPress website is myultraadventures.wordpress.com, yes?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you.
And it's great. It's great. Well, thank you, Scott, and I hope to see you eventually pretty soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, have a good night.
All right, you too. Bye.